I will show you the most excellent way. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. A mother's request. Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to Jesus with her sons, and kneeling down, asked a favor of him. "What is it you want?" he asked. She said, "Grant that one of these 2 sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at the left in your kingdom." "You don't know what you are asking," Jesus said to them. "Can you drink the cup I am going to drink?" "We can," they answered. Jesus said to them, "You will indeed drink from my cup, but to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard about this, they were indignant with the 2 brothers. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many."
I wonder what you would consider to be your greatest achievements. Or if you have children, what comes to mind when you think of their achievements? And this week I happened upon a thought-provoking BBC article about the experience of a woman named Cassie Carlisle on finding out that her newborn baby had Down syndrome. And as I spent time reflecting on her experience, I found myself asking the question, is what our culture considers achievement in keeping with a Christian understanding of achievement? And in this reflection, I invite you to join me in asking that question. Is what our culture defines as achievement in keeping with a Christian understanding of achievement? First, I want to tell you briefly about Cassie's experience. Well, Cassie hadn't been flagged for prenatal screening while she was pregnant, and she only found out when her son Carlson was born that he had Down syndrome. With real honesty, she speaks of how, when she got this news, she was shocked, she was afraid, she was distressed. How at first she couldn't bear to hold him. She speaks too of the guilt that she felt about feeling that way. Cassie describes being handed these old-fashioned looking leaflets that told her lots of things that her baby wouldn't be able to do. 3 years on, Cassie describes Carlson as the missing piece of their family. One of her daughters, Chennai, named him our little rainbow of uniqueness. Cassie says, "We really wouldn't change a thing. He is my perfect son." That's not reflective of everyone's experience, of course, but note the difference between how Cassie felt on the day of birth and today. For women who receive a diagnosis of Down syndrome before birth, in prenatal screening, their experience is often a similar one to Cassie, in that they receive lots of information about the limitations and other health conditions the child could face. Often this is accompanied by being told by the medical staff, "I'm so sorry." And of course a difficult choice is then placed in those women's hands to continue with the pregnancy or not. Now, this reflection is not about the morality of individual women's choices, and nobody should judge somebody who is given such a painful decision to make. What I want to reflect on today is why so many prospective parents receive such a negative response to a Down's diagnosis, given that many babies with Down syndrome go on to live fulfilling lives, go on to bring joy to their families, and given that we live in a society that is at least aware of the need to include and affirm those with disabilities. There are, of course, many different reasons and many different circumstances. But in listening to the stories of parents like Cassie this week, one deep question that struck me was, what do we as a society consider a life worth living? The philosopher Socrates famously said that an unexamined life was not worth living. In other words, the only worthwhile life is one of reason and reflection. Now, since Socrates' time, many people have asked the same question. And I think in our culture, we consider achievement to be the mark of a worthwhile life. Whether unconsciously or consciously, we evaluate ourselves and others based on what we or they have achieved. We either idolise the physically or intellectually gifted or financially successful, or else we're jealous of them. We're often quick to flaunt and tell people about our qualifications and our careers. We get our self-worth from those things quite often. We grow up in a school system that can easily define us by our grades. The people we see on our TV screens, whether we watch sports or movies or nearly anything else, they're typically those who are successful by those standards. In short, we are habituated, acclimatized to, surrounded by a world of achievement. Returning to those women who are confronted with apologies and pessimistic information, Stephanie Meredith, the director of the National Centre for Prenatal and Postnatal Resources, points out that Down syndrome is defined and diagnosed by a medical system made up of people who have to be highly successful to get there, who likely base at least part of their identity on their intelligence. She asks, might that system where achievement and intellect is so prized contain bias, even if it's unconscious, about what kind of life has value? Negative information, misconceptions, and our cultural values about achievement, they all fail to reflect the made in the image of God humanity of a person with Down syndrome. The reality is that people with Down syndrome have a wide range of intellectual and physical abilities, which can include many of those achievements that are so highly prized by society. Take Anna Rose Rubright, for example, who this year graduated from university with a bachelor's degree. Or Chris Nikic, who this year completed an Ironman race. That's a 2.5 mile swim, followed immediately by a 112 mile bike ride, and then immediately by a marathon, all in one go. And of course, stories like theirs, important though they are for addressing outdated stereotypes about disability, they aren't the experience of everyone with Down syndrome. And they don't challenge that cultural value that says a worthy life is one where you achieve. But I think the Christian faith, and our readings today specifically, I think they offer a different understanding of a life worth living. An understanding that more readily includes people with Down syndrome. 1 Corinthians 13 says that the mark of a good life is love. In no uncertain terms, it says that you can have all the achievements in the world, but if you don't have love, then your success is nothing. And Jesus, responding to the mother of two of his disciples, who has grand ambitions for her kids to sit at Jesus' right and left in glory, Jesus says that the mark of true greatness is loving service to others. A worthy life, true achievement, is defined by love. A charity in America called PALS tries to offer potential parents of babies with Down syndrome an alternative story to the apologetic words and the negative information they so often receive. Through their Congratulations project, people with Down syndrome write letters to those parents. Letters that, instead of starting with "I'm sorry," start with "Congratulations." And many of those letters, you can read them on their website, many of those letters include things like, "I like to love," or "I love life because of my friends. Clearly, there is no difficulty there for many, many people with Down syndrome getting that great achievement of love that the Christian faith affirms, alongside other achievements like Anna Rose and Chris have managed. If we adopt and spread a countercultural Christian definition of achievement as love, then perhaps mothers like Cassie won't have to wait to find joy in their baby's life. Perhaps some women who receive a prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome may feel empowered and supported to keep and love the child that they've longed for. Perhaps we will have eyes to see the true worth and true achievements in our lives and the lives of others. Amen.